Everybody wants to talk about the Lions, and that's the beauty of what the NFL does. I can complain left and right about Roger Goodell and the NFL and how it treats its veterans and how it treats its players and so on and so forth.
Nobody really cares about those things.
Well, that's the biggest problem I have with it. Yes, okay, that's a serious problem. It's not too different than our country caring about our veterans. But either way, you look at it in this situation, and the NFL is so king. It is so good, and that's what people want to talk about every single day. And there's stuff to talk about every single day. Marcus Davenport's a really good one. Dan Campbell says should know by the end of the week. We can only hope and pray that he's going to be available for Baltimore, because without him, what do? You literally have on your roster right now 3 edge rushers. We know who they are, and one of them is hurt. One guy you saw today, and the other guy is due for a big payday and finally got his first sack and comes with a lot of energy, and love him. That's a scary situation. And I think in our society, especially in the media, you have to be willing to say, I was wrong. And you know what? I'm going to give Kool-Aid and Braylon a ton of credit here. Because when we were talking about Zadarius Smith, which is second on my list to the most drawn-out, worn-out argument in Detroit sports, to the coordinators for crying out loud, but I got tired of it, and I said, I wouldn't pay him $9 million, and that's with incentives. And Braylon's like, Shep, are they signing Aiden Hutchinson? The answer to that is no. Not right now, okay? Do they have salary cap? Yes, they do. Do they need the individual? Absolutely. I'm not making him out to be the second coming of Bruce Smith, but this team desperately needs it. And if we're hanging on a prayer, Bon Jovi, to bring a 6th-round draft pick, Haseen, getting better and hopefully be a difference maker, I think you are living on a prayer. Just throw the damn rope up to the moon and hope you lasso that son of a gun.
Shep, you just made my family so happy with that John Bon Jovi quote right there. You made them so happy.
Nah, I mean,
not a huge fan, by the way, but go ahead.
Oh!
No, you're 100% correct, and I appreciate the Bon Jovi reference right there. That was kind of smooth. It just is. It sucks, and you're playing a game against the Baltimore Ravens, which you know what their quarterback's going to do. And the thing about it is you want to get guys on the outside to trying to contain him, and that's not what they can do when you don't have a rush in from the side. Just saying, if Marcus Davenport is hurt, a lot was put on him this season. If he's hurt, we wish him a healthy recovery. But man, who's up? Who's up next? Because right now it doesn't seem like you put yourself in a position to have a guy. The interior for Detroit has been fine. The interior for Detroit is fine, which questions the draft pick a little bit in the sense that you had DJ Reader, you had Lee McNeil, and I understand maybe it was for the beginning of the season, but those were stout guys up front. The issue has always been on the outsides, or the outside once you saw the rise of Aiden Hutchinson. So it just sucks that, it seems as if we are right back in a position as if talking before the season, as if talking before last season about what does the right side look like. Because right now, you need a guy, and he's wanted, dead or alive, to throw it to Bon Jovi. That's another team.
Yeah. Hey. I'm not complaining about the Tyreek Williams pick at all. Right. So I hope people aren't taking it that way, because I really like him.
He's another great guy in the inside.
Yeah, I think he's been really good so far. Yeah. He was really good against Chicago. I'm talking about if you're not going to address it in the draft, and that's fine. You know me. I don't give a crap about need. I care about the player. If you don't have one graded high enough.
How many guys have been available and you passed on? That's Joey Bosa, Jadeveon Clowney, Zadarius Smith. The list goes on. The guys and you're just looking for a serviceable guy. You were looking for a guy that can help Marcus Davenport out, where he didn't have to pay 85, 90% of snaps, because we know that's not what's in his DNA. You just have a guy ready. Or if he gets hurt, what happened? Mm-hmm. Seems as though he might have gotten hurt, and you just don't have that guy right now in the wings, in the stables, ready to pounce. And this is a major game. This is a big one for him. So it just seems annoying that this is something that we've talked about, and whether you agree or not, now here we are in the very moment that we talked about. Sometimes it's okay to say, we botched this one, and fix it, though.
Fix it.
And and find a way.
That's what good managers, not just general managers of football teams, that's what good managers in business do, okay? Cut ties if you have to. Fix the problem now that you've recognized it. Yeah. And, again, this is what I love about this show, learning. You said to me about a month ago, Shep, all I need him for is about 20 snaps. 15 to 20. I think you said 15, actually.
Yeah.
Do you know how many snaps Zadarius Smith played for Philly last Sunday in his first game? 20. Exactly what Braylon was talking about.
Yeah.
And I get that I'm not expecting double-digit sacks, okay? I wasn't expecting that from your starter, Marcus Davenport. What you need is the threat of doing that, and for that team to recognize we may have to double-team him once in a while. Yeah. There's a balance there for your defensive line.
Also, you want a guy that you bring in, Shep, that a guy that that the offense has to take a look at. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to bring a guy in that when you're watching film, when you're studying, when you're doing scout team reps, you got a guy that, you know what, we want to put a little bit of emphasis on whatever number this guy is. Let's focus on this. This is what this guy does. This is what shows up on film. So there's a focus. If there's a focus, then that means they'll worry about him to a certain extent. Like a guy can give you 9 sacks a season and show up in the scouting report as a guy that, we got to pay attention, and he does this well, he does that well. When you don't have that guy, they don't have to pay attention. Like, it is a moot point. Mm-hmm. They're not even worried about the right side. Let's put 2 guys on Aiden. Let's shut this down. Let's get some chipping here and there. We're not worried about this backside because, 1, they have a good offensive line anyway. And then 2, it's like, it's on the right side. It's the left tackle that he's going to be worrying about. They're not worried about that.
Although Muhammad has played very well. I saw a stat from Pro Football Focus, I believe, where he is 6th through 2 weeks for quarterback pressures. Not bad, okay? Yeah. He's just behind Myles Garrett, and he's behind some big-name guys. Yeah. Trey Hendrickson's right behind him. So
I want to see how that shows up. I want to see how that shows up because the first game, I didn't even know he was on the field. And then the second game, they played against an offensive line and just looked beat up and ragtag. And understand, you play against the competition in front of you. Yeah. And so he had a good game, 100%. But want to see what that looks like against the Baltimore Ravens because even Dan Campbell understands, and we have that sound, that it's going to look a lot different playing against a team that's 24-2 against the NFC with having those guys, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and he's playing 37% of the snaps right now. That's going to go up if, and that's a big if, Marcus Davenport can't get going for this week. If he can't, it'll be very interesting to see what they did because if you lose, like they just lost Shane Zylstra. They lost him to IL. What did they do? They promoted an offensive lineman. So what do you read between that?
More DBs because now you blitz.
So you're saying you promote an offensive lineman and there's more DBs?
No, I was saying in terms of you said what do they do if they're on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah,
I jumped ahead.
Yeah, what is it? What do you read into that? I read there might not be a guy on their practice squad good enough to be promoted, and obviously Dan Campbell has said we're good. We've got enough guys. I like Pat O'Connor.
Yeah,
I like him a lot. Okay, called all his games at Eastern Michigan. Happy that he won a Super Bowl with Tampa. How many snaps are you going to get from him? How many snaps are you going to get from Muhammad? How much can you ask of Derek Barnes? Apparently, they think they can get that out of these guys, and I hope and pray that they're right, because if they're not, this is a turning moment for Brad Holmes and the fan base if they don't win it all, I think.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And just talking about it, the question in which I was answering, I thought you were going to ask on the defensive side of the ball. If they're not adding in another DN and now they'll rush in, then what do you do on the defensive side of the ball to give them some help? And I said blitz more. And that's what you'll see. Brian Branch is a great blitzer. He reminds me of an Antoine Winfield type of safety in the NFL. So you blitz more. And they've done a little bit of that. So I think that's how you got to help yourself. You got to spy number 8, though. Like, I don't care what you have to do. You need to put 3 eyes on number 8 because that's not enough.
That's scary.
Like, that's not enough. And that's all you have to. That's all you really have to offer. You look at the defensive end right now, the D line on the outside. It's going to be tough.
Dude, the easy thing to say about Lamar Jackson is make sure he doesn't get outside the pocket and make him beat you with his arm. Do you know any defensive coordinator in the National Football League who doesn't have the same philosophy? Saying that is one thing. Doing it is totally different.
I'll do you one better. I'm actually Kool-Aid. You get that film, that conversation, Ray. I want to hear a little bit of that. I'll do you one better. The knock on Lamar Jackson in entering the draft, he's not a quarterback. He's going to be a wide receiver. He's not efficient. He can't stay in the pocket the whole night. This was the conversation on Lamar Jackson. He can run. He's a running quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to the scouting report that got him drafted 32nd to where he is currently You know where he's at? He has the most rushing yards by a quarterback all time in NFL history through the first 8 seasons of career. And also, you know where his passing efficiency is? It ranks number 1 all time, tied with Aaron Rodgers at 102.6. You can't just leave him in the pocket because that's where he's been destroying teams in the last 2 years, in the pocket. You don't believe me? Go look at last year's stats when he didn't win the MVP and what he did. 4 interceptions, 4,100 yards passing, 42 touchdowns.
Yeah, but you don't want him outside. You don't want him rolling out.
You don't want him on the field.
Okay. But there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
So the question is, you got to pick your poison with him.
Yeah.
And you would rather have him in the pocket than outside the pocket where he's a dual threat. That's my only point.
And they've started slow. That's the opposite side. Now I had to hype him up because, look, you guys know how I feel about Lamar Jackson. I pick him to win the Super Bowl every year. I pick him to be MVP every year. But with that being said, they struggled a little bit in the past, and I understand what the numbers say. Yeah, he has 4 touchdowns last week. I think he had 4 touchdowns in the open. But they don't have any congruency in that offense. They don't have any guys he's going to consistently. Mark Andrews is a non-factor right now. I know he was injured. He will play against the Lions. They're trying to figure that thing out.
He played last week.
But in a non-serviceable space, sparingly.
Yeah.
And then also in the run game, Derrick Henry, 178 yards in the first game. This is the guy. He's going to run for 2,000. Yeah. A second time, he'd be the first running back to ever do that. Of course, where was he last week when he was going a little sparring back and forth with the
Cleveland's
Cleveland
defense is pretty good, but yeah.
It is, but I'm saying, like, in 2 weeks, they're not the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm saying Detroit Lions are going to go up there and get embarrassed. They're the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm saying Detroit has a damn good shot. They still –
That surprises me you said that, considering I think 2 weeks ago you said Lamar Jackson's 24-2 all time against the NFC. He doesn't lose to the NFC.
Yeah, I didn't say they were going to. I did not say they were going to win because they're still going to lose. But I'm saying going into this game, I'd be interested to see how they lose the game.
Be ready for the constant quarterback discussion after Lamar Jackson has the kind of day that he oftentimes does. Be ready for that, because I would remind people, as much as you're glorifying Lamar Jackson for good reason, Jared Goff may have not won an MVP, but since 2023, Jared Goff is number 1 in the league in yards, number 2 in touchdowns, number 1 in wins, which is really important, number 2 in completion percentage, and number 1 in passing yards per game.
How many Super Bowls is that one?
That's none. But if I wanted to turn those tables, let's say how many Super Bowls has Lamar Jackson won?
And that's why right now, what did I tell you? I said Buffalo's a better team than them. I don't want to hear about the regular season anymore.
I'm just saying be ready for the constant conversation about the quarterback. It seems like we have that quite a bit anytime Detroit takes on a mobile quarterback and loses.
Be ready for this conversation for me. If the Detroit Lions lose and they look bad, can Detroit beat a good team? And hear me out when I say this. Yes, they beat the Green Bay Packers, who have been a good team. It's a rivalry. Rivalries happen. How many times have you seen a team on the other side had no business winning? In the NFL, in college, doesn't matter. Rivalries are a little bit different. What's the team that Detroit has beaten? You're like, yo, that's a signature win. Outside of the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago,
just about to say that,
with no Travis Kelce and no Chris Jones. And don't give me that. It doesn't matter. You play who's in front of them because it makes a difference. Because once they got those 2 guys back, they won the Super Bowl that year. What's the game? I was looking forward to the Buffalo Bills game. Dud.
Yeah.
2 years ago, the Baltimore Ravens game. Dud.
Yeah, I would remind you that against Kansas City, Detroit had some guys out too, including Taylor Decker, I believe. So I get.
You're talking about the best tight end in the league at the time and the best defensive tackle in the league at the time.
I know.
It's 1-1.
I'm just saying we conveniently use that as the excuse on why Detroit won,
but
instead of looking at who Detroit had on the IL or out
Taylor
to.
Decker in that year he's not the same player as a Chris Jones and a Travis Kelce.
I'm not suggesting he is.
What
I'm telling you is he's a starter.
Right.
And Detroit missed some players too. That's all I'm saying.
All
so
right.
you're looking for the signature win. Is it a signature win against the Rams?
No.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
It's a playoff win.
But Detroit was favored to win that game. It was
I
a
think
home
he's talking
playoff
about
game.
regular-
And
I think he's
no,
talking
you
about
can talk
regular.
about that one.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. No, the Rams don't count.
I think it should. It's a playoff win.
It's a playoff win. You had home field advantage. They came in here. They were a wild card team, and you beat them at home. Like it was a big win for the Lions. They got them in the second round of the playoffs, but no one thought the Rams would win that game.
I mean,
that shouldn't make it any less of a statement game. If you beat a good team, you asked, can they beat a good team? The Rams were a good team. They made the playoffs.
Okay, fine.
Houston
fine.
is I'm reaching.
No, it's not
I'm
Houston.
willing to reach it.
I'm talking about one of the teams that people have pegged to win a Super Bowl. When they line up against those teams, they don't do well.
Okay, how many of those?
That's what I'm talking about.
In fairness to the Lions, how many of those teams have they played? The team that was expected to win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl, how many have they played? That's the first thing we have to decide.
We can figure that out. My question is, my answer is still going to be the same. So let's say 2. If you want to just go 2, it's been 2. It's been the Baltimore Ravens, it's been the Buffalo Bills,
and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Fine, one and two, but embarrassing, to say the least, with 2 of those losses.
Yeah, Baltimore was an embarrassing loss. Buffalo was close, but they made it close late. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
I would even throw the Green Bay Packers, who I believe to be a Super Bowl team this year. I would throw them in there. And how did that look?
Okay, it looked bad, but they had won 5 of the previous 6 against Green Bay.
Right.
So,
but this Green Bay team isn't those Green Bay teams. Those Green Bay teams weren't Super Bowl contenders in my eyes.
Can you say
in your eyes, that one of those Green Bay teams went in and beat the living snot out of Dallas when Dallas was at home,
but this
and
is
they
Dallas.
did win double-digit wins. Oh, we can. But every team, I suppose every team I bring up, you could easily just kind of deflect and say, but they weren't this dot.
It's not a deflection. It's did you really trust in that team? Has anybody ever trusted in Dallas in the playoffs since '95?
Say what you want about the Vikings, but the Vikings won 14 games last year when they beat them.
Yep.
And the Lions didn't have a defense at that point in time. It's still a 14. We've never seen it happen in NFL history at that point. Two teams with 14 wins at that point.
Did you believe in that Minnesota Vikings team?
No. I was definitely nervous in the game.
Did you believe in that Minnesota Vikings team? Did you think that was a Minnesota Vikings team that was going to get to the playoffs and they would be the one, not the people leaders of the 70s, not the Stephon Diggs catch, not that team who wasn't Kirk Cousins, by the way. It was Case Keenum. Thank you. Did you believe in that?
No. I thought the loser of that game was going to lose first round regardless to the Rams. That's what I thought. And I thought.
And you were right.
Whoever, and the Vikings had a more healthy roster at that time. So, and what they could have done at home, we obviously never know. But I think the Vikings could have absolutely won whoever they would have came against, which would have been the Commanders, I believe. But I still think the Vikings and the playoff Rams win is a signature win for the Lions.
You can have those playoff wins 100%. I have no problem with that. What I will say this is my original comment stands the ground in which I placed it on. If they look bad in this game, it's something to worry about because they've looked bad in potential Super Bowl opponent games.
Get it. I totally understand that. The potential. My only argument to that whole philosophy is potential Super Bowl opponent. Just because people in the masses believe that a team is going to get there doesn't mean that they're a Super Bowl contender. Do you believe, if you're not willing to believe in certain teams like Minnesota, which I understand, why would you? Or Dallas, why would you, right? What makes you believe in Baltimore? They've never done it. If you didn't have the affinity for Lamar Jackson, outside of that, why are you believing in Baltimore? What have they done?
Because every year, the team that beats Lamar wins the Super Bowl. The quarterback that beats Lamar, the team that beats Lamar wins the Super Bowl, or they get to the game to fall short to Patrick Mahomes.
Except for Buffalo.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and he ends up losing to Patrick Mahomes. At the end of the day, the way I feel about them, I feel like they're an elite team in this NFL. And I feel like if they can't hang with the elite team in the NFL, mine is a feeling. Like it's not about
your feelings are a hell of a lot more justified than most of us since you've been there. I don't see how you can be an elite team if you haven't gotten there. If you're not going to give the Lions enough credit for not getting there and beating those elite teams, I guess I need to know who Baltimore's elite teams are that they're beating. If you believe they're an elite team, okay,
right?
Let's face it.
It's how they beat teams. It's how they've done it in Lamar Jackson's tenure, and it's one of those situations. He just happens to be in there of Patrick Mahomes, and they keep getting the job done, and they keep winning. Like there's been a lot of
he hadn't been good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen hadn't been good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes.
But you still feel as though they're elite. Like how many people were?
I mean, I don't.
How many people were elite, but they couldn't be getting by Michael Jordan? Is that their fault?
Yeah, it is their fault.
You said, it is their fault?
I think so.
I mean, they got to overcome it and win.
Yeah.
And
we had
that's easy for the younger era to say because you guys don't see back-to-backs outside of Steph Curry. Everybody each year is a different year. It's a different team. It's not the same as when Jordan dominated everybody or when Tom Brady dominated everybody. How many people came up short against Tom Brady? There were great quarterbacks. There were great teams.
But you got to admit, Braylon, I mean, a guy like Peyton Manning couldn't get by Tom Brady, and everybody started to question, can he really be considered elite? Can he be really considered one of the greatest of all time if you can't get past this guy? John Elway had the same issue with Joe Montana. Not until he won 2 Super Bowls, actually won, but then won his second, and Peyton Manning won his, did people actually then say, okay, now you've arrived. They're doing the same thing with Josh Allen, and rightfully so. They're doing the same thing with Lamar Jackson, and rightfully so. Baltimore, I don't believe, can be elite if they're not getting at least to that game and giving you a reason to believe they are elite.